Some errors in the Quran. This is Ibn al-Hurriya, son of freedom. Purpose of this study: to explain the role of inerrancy and inspiration in refuting the authority of the Quran, to show just how vulnerable the Quran is to invalidation, to free Muslims from the tyranny of the Quran, to show Muhammad was a false prophet. Argument of this study: the Quran claims to be the inerrant and inspired word of Allah. But if the Quran can be shown to have even one positive error, or if its contents can be accounted for by human means only, its claims to be inerrant and inspired is false. The likelihood that the Quran has at least one positive error grows as we can demonstrate a growing number of errors, or evidences of its humanity. And since its being the word of Allah is tied to its being inerrant and inspired, then it cannot be the word of Allah. And thus the Quran fraudulently presents itself as the word of Allah. Then the Muslim is not bound to obey its teachings and can go free. The Quran claims to be an eternal book. Quran 85.21 and 22 says, "Nay, this is a glorious Quran, inscribed in the preserved tablet." Reliance of the Traveler, section V 1.8 says, quote, "The Quran, despite being beginninglessly eternal," unquote. Additional references which suggest that the Quran is sent down from Allah and is therefore to be relied upon by the Muslim are Quran 4.127, 18.27, 29.51, 32.2 and 3, 62.2, 98.2, 3.3 and 4, 2.89, 6.157, 35.31, 46.30, 43.4, 52.2 and 3, and 97.1. This strongly suggests that if we were to find evidence that the Quran has errors or contains human sources represented as divine sources, it is a fraud. Now our task becomes easy. We do not have to show a large number of errors or borrowings in the Quran, though there are plenty. Formally, we only need show one indisputable error or one instance where the Quran is a mere borrowing where it claims inspiration for itself. But to increase our confidence that the Quran is not a divine book, a handful of well-established errors, anachronisms, or borrowings is all we need. So let's start with some errors. I'm going to give you 7 errors today. Error number 1, Mary and Miriam anachronism. Quran 19.16 through 34 conflates Mary, the mother of Jesus, with Miriam, the sister of Aaron in the Hebrew Bible. We can see that the Mary who has the baby Jesus now brings the baby to her people, and they refer to her as the sister of Aaron. Sorry, Muslim, you cannot squirm out of this. Muhammad accidentally combined the two Marys, not realizing they lived over 1400 years apart. Muhammad tries to cover his tracks in Sahih Muslim 25.5326 but fails. Error number 2, the Far Mosque in the Night Journey. The Miraj, the night journey in which Muhammad was taken by Gabriel and the Buraq, took place allegedly around 621 CE toward the end of his ministry in Mecca. The Hijra is placed at 622. This is when he went to Medina, when he migrated to Medina. Quran 17.1 says that Allah took Muhammad from the sacred mosque, Al-Majid, Al-Haram at Mecca, to the far mosque, Al-Majid Al-Aqsa in Jerusalem. The problem with this is that Muhammad is still a struggling prophet during the Meccan period. He barely has a following. He has not migrated yet to Medina to transition his career to that of warlord. And the Al-Aqsa Mosque wasn't built until late 7th century. There was no Al-Aqsa Mosque at the time of the night journey. Error 3. The Quran is incomplete. So there was a problem with keeping men and women from sexual temptation. So to solve that problem, Muhammad prescribes that, to remove the temptation, the woman should breastfeed the man 10 times. This was later abrogated to 5 times. Then a fosterage relation would be established and the temptation would be removed. Sahih Muslim 8.3424. What's wrong with this picture? After Muhammad's death, Aisha recounts that the original directive from Muhammad was indeed 10 times, but before it could go into the Quran, a sheep found the paper under her pillow and ate it. Majah 1944. Therefore, the Quran is incomplete. The preserved tablet did not get faithfully transmitted. How many other passages are missing for various reasons in the textual transmission of the Quran? Error number 4, dirham coins. Quran 12.20 has Joseph's brothers selling Joseph in Genesis 37 for a few dirhams. Joseph's entry into Egypt should be dated about 1875 BCE. But the dirham was not invented until the 12th century BCE, about 700 years later. Therefore, Quran 12.20 is historically wrong. Error number 5, David's coat of mail. Quran 34.10 and 11 has King David wearing a coat of chain mail. But chain mail wasn't invented until the Celts first made it in the 5th century BCE. But David lived in the 10th century BCE. The Quran must be mistaken. Error number 6, the Samaritans make the golden calf. According to Quran 20.35 through 88 and 95, it is the Samaritans who were responsible for inciting the Israelites to make the golden calf while the Israelites were wandering for 40 years in the Sinai Peninsula. But the Samaritans as a people did not exist until the northern kingdom of Israel was invaded several centuries later by Assyria. Therefore, the Quran is in error. Error number 7, Abraham is delivered from fire. Quran 21.68 through 71 and 37.97 has Abraham being rescued from a fire by God. Compare that to Bukhari section 3359. This story does not occur in Genesis. Why? Here is the origin of the story. A Jewish rabbi, Jonathan ben Aziel, in the 1st century CE was translating Genesis 15.7 from Babylonian into Aramaic. He did not know that meant city and was the proper name for a city in Babylonian. He confused it for the word which in Aramaic meant fire. This mistranslation of as fire caused a tradition to grow in the Talmud in which God rescued Abraham from the fire. Muhammad used this faulty account of Abraham and the fire from the Jewish Talmud, so it is an error in the Quran. What to make of these errors? There are more errors, anachronisms, and cases of misapplying or mere incorporating previously existing material in the Quran. I've only given you 7 examples. With each alleged error, the probability that all of the alleged errors will be solved by Muslims and none of them will stick becomes vanishingly small. Therefore, it is more reasonable to conclude that the Quran is a mere human book and not divine. But in case the Muslim wants to hang on to the hope that the Quran came from a preserved tablet and is inerrant, we will find more problems. At some point, however, the Muslim should concede that his faith is built on lies. Then he can come out of his bondage. Some errors in the Quran. This is Aben al-Hurriya, son of freedom. Thank you for listening.